are those? Wait, but didn't he? Wait, you can? What's that? How? I don't... Who are you? Oh, wait, no. I know that one. That's... Yes. Anyway. What does it mean? In case you haven't heard, Nintendo gave a direct on February 8th, 2023, and of course, they had to cap off the show with the Hero of the Wild, taking to the skies as we got another look at The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. It features new enemies, weapons, brand new gameplay mechanics, and story implications. So, of course, it's time to take off our green pointy caps and put on our tinfoil hats as we take a deeper look and ask, what does it mean? Please keep in mind that this is our speculation based on the info available at the time, so take our theories with a grain of rock salt. The new trailer introduces us to a number of new gameplay changes that could hint at a Hyrule that's both new and familiar to those who've played Breath of the Wild. First off, it seems that Ganon's resurrection is causing a surge in malice to spread across the land, drenching familiar enemies with it. There's also a new type of bokoblin, called a boss bokoblin, a new flying type enemy, and a stone golem of sorts that seems to be Zonai made, something we'll touch more on later. Most interesting are the return of the Redeads, seen here with its familiar zombie-like design, and what looks to be a three-headed dragon. Fans speculate that the dragon could be the return of Gleeok, an enemy boss that appeared in the first Legend of Zelda game, but hasn't returned since Phantom Hourglass. We now get a closer look at Link's arm! It seems to be blackened or burned before glowing green. Also, it's covered in bronze-like ornaments. The design of Link's arm bears some semblance to the design of a woman's dress in this clip, and some large geoglyphs around Hyrule scattered in the trailer. Could the woman in white be another version of Zelda within Breath of the Wild's timeline? Or maybe even Hylia herself? Could the geoglyphs hint at a new prophecy for the Hero of the Wild? So many more questions. All of these are likely to be related to a certain ancient tribe we know little about, but seems to be front and center in Tears of the Kingdom. The Zonai, an ancient barbaric race whose presence in Breath of the Wild was mainly represented in ancient ruins and the barbarian armor. Fans have long speculated their larger role in the sequel, and the newest trailer adds more fuel to this particular fire, with many of the new features showing similar imagery associated with the Zonai. Going back to the announcement trailer from 2019, it features cave paintings and stone carvings similar to Zonai designs found in Breath of the Wild. That first teaser also featured green streams of energy that are also assumed to be of Zonai origin. Based on that, the land of Hyrule is covered, quite literally from sky to ground, with Zonai magic, artifacts, and architecture. Some of Link's weapons, like a new homing arrow, seem charged with similar green energy, as well as the new two-handed weapon bearing a similar dragon head design as the flamethrower shield seen in the second teaser trailer. Even the new vehicles shown have the same green and dragon-centric motif. So, basically, while Breath of the Wild heavily connected Sheikah Tech and lore with Link's adventure, the Zonai are more than likely to replace the Sheikah in Link's newest adventure. But how and why, though? The latest trailer also continues to beg the question of, where are all the Sheikah towers and shrines that were in Breath of the Wild? Theories range from time traveling to multiple timelines again to outright destruction and... But what do we think? Glad you asked. This is a meaty one, so you might want to take a note or two. Okay, now really, when will Tears of the Kingdom take place and how will its story unfold? Now you may be thinking, obviously Tears of the Kingdom is chronologically after Breath of the Wild, and we think that's true too. But it might not be that cut and dry. With the appearance of a more rugged-looking Link and the abundance of Zonai stuff being featured, ideas like Link traveling back to the first Great Calamity aren't that crazy. But what if the truth lies somewhere in between? Just like any good Zelda story, time flows as it needs to. And that's what we think what will happen not only in Tears of the Kingdom, but to the whole Zelda timeline. How so? It's likely that Tears of the Kingdom will dive deeper into the world of Hyrule much more than Breath of the Wild, putting a spotlight on events that go beyond the second Great Calamity. But how the story will play out may be more straightforward than you think. Essentially, we think that most of Tears of the Kingdom's story will mostly take place after Breath of the Wild and will be structured similarly to it. Not a big shocker of a revelation, sure, but remember that Tears of the Kingdom is the sequel to Breath of the Wild, not just the next Zelda game. As a direct sequel, it will mirror many aspects of Breath of the Wild, but what if it will also mirror its impact on the canon timeline? As Breath of the Wild is seen as the new foundation going forward, Tears of the Kingdom has the even bigger role of charting the course. Why? Well, let's answer some of the ongoing questions that have been on people's minds that will illustrate our point. Where are all the Sheikah towers and ancient shrines that were in Breath of the Wild? While it is safe to assume that the Sheikah and their technology will still appear in Tears of the Kingdom, they'll definitely take a back seat to make way for the Zonai. How? Well, the towers, shrines, and even the guardians, divine beasts, and giant columns surrounding Hyrule Castle were all built as defense mechanisms against the prophesized return of Calamity Ganon. They are important to Breath of the Wild's story as they were there to aid and train Link. When Ganon is defeated at the end of Breath of the Wild, we think those ancient Sheikah technologies were hidden away once more, since their goal was finally accomplished. Even Zelda and her allies had all their plans laid out on the basis that Calamity Ganon would be gone once and for all once Link defeats it. With Calamity Ganon gone, what if Pura and Robbie found a way for the Sheikah Slate to hide all the ancient technology back underground, as they thought they wouldn't need it anymore? Ganon is gone. That much the ending of Breath of the Wild showed. They lived happily ever after. It is safe to assume that everyone, even Link, would think that the era of Calamity has ended. Hyrule can finally rebuild, as Zelda said. As an era of peace begins, it would only be natural for the Sheikah defense mechanisms to go dormant. For example, look at this shot of Hateno Village, and notice the curious absence of the Sheikah Tech where Pura's lab should be. Wonder why? Remember, the reason why Pura and Robbie left Kakariko Village and stayed in separate locations was so that if ever Kakariko was attacked, at least one of them could still be alive once Link wakes up from his 100-year sleep. Now that Link has put an end to Calamity Ganon, it would make sense that they would let their guard down and finally return to their home village and abandon the Sheikah Tech lab in Hateno. Where did all the floating islands come from, and why weren't they in Breath of the Wild? If the Sheikah Slate is replaced with Link's new arm in Tears of the Kingdom, the arm may serve the same function not just in gameplay, but for the story as well. Ganondorf's revival and Link seemingly taking the glowing green arm that held Ganondorf in place could have activated all those islands, new structures, and glowing geoglyphs, similar to how Link used the Sheikah Slate to activate all the towers and shrines at the start of Breath of the Wild. Given those possible answers, plus the multiple shots that place Link and a corrupted floating Hyrule castle together, they give more credence to the idea that Link's new adventure continues forward in time after Breath of the Wild, for the most part. There's still that version of Link with a long hair and more rugged design, who curiously did not appear at all in the newest trailer. We curiously only see Link don his familiar champion's tunic attire from Breath of the Wild this time. Taking a look at Link's other design and considering Breath of the Wild's acknowledgement that the Zelda timeline exists, this Link may be the one that stopped Ganon during the first Great Calamity 10,000 years ago. This ancient incarnation of Link, we'll dub as Calamity Link from now on, is clearly playable as seen in multiple trailers. But when and why is the mystery. Nintendo is still being cagey in presenting Calamity Link in trailers, but from what we can tell so far, this hero of the ancient wild won't replace the current one. Breath of the Wild Link is still the face of Tears of the Kingdom. Just look at that gorgeous box art! So maybe we'll play as Calamity Link, but only in a limited capacity. Perhaps Calamity Link will function similarly to the captured memories of Breath of the Wild, but playable. At certain specific locations around the Sky Islands above Hyrule, Link may get flashbacks of Calamity Link during his time in the first Calamity. Some evidence that supports this theory is that so far, we haven't seen Calamity Link explore the ground. He's always been in the sky or on one of the floating islands. There's also this interesting edit in the newest trailer, beginning with a close-up of the woman in white, holding up her hand, and then cuts to Link reaching out to her with his corrupted arm. But the next shot shows Link staring at his corrupted hand, looking confused, like, why do I have my arm out like that? What? It could be that Calamity Link gave up his empowered arm to seal away Ganondorf all those years ago. But when the time came for Link from Breath of the Wild to find Ganondorf and free him from his imprisonment, the power of Calamity Link's severed arm passed on to the Link of the present. And it is through that connection of present Link to the Link of the past that he can bear the memories of the first great calamity. How the Zonai play into all of this is still a mystery, but their importance to the Tears of the Kingdom story is clear. Recalling the story of the first great calamity of Hylians and many other races working together to stop Calamity Ganon, it could be guessed that the Zonai could have been one of them if they were still present at the time. Or even if they were already long gone at the time. Maybe Calamity Link got his arm imbued with Zonai magic as he explored the Sky Islands. Why the Zonai were never mentioned when retelling the first great calamity is admittedly a potential hole in our theory that we have yet to plug ourselves. But it is entirely possible that Impa was simply sparing Link the gritty details when telling him the story. After all, the Zonai are not around anymore, so if they were wiped out in the first calamity, perhaps that subject would be too painful to bring up. With all that said, we think our theories could work, as it does fit within the cyclical nature and overall timeline of the Zelda series. Some have already theorized that because of the logo featuring imagery similar to the Ouroboros, a symbol that depicts an eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, Tears of the Kingdom will address the Zelda timeline just as much as Breath of the Wild did. Maybe just as Breath of the Wild was all about attaining a lost power and saving a world lost to time, perhaps Tears of the Kingdom will be about rebirth, through a greater power and forging bonds beyond time to rebuild the world, connecting two links under the same sky. Pretty compelling stuff that the Zelda series is no stranger to, and Tears of the Kingdom is shaping up to be no different. If our theories hold true. Whew, now that's a pretty meaty theory, don't you think? This definitely makes Tears of the Kingdom more exciting, and we cannot wait till the game drops. But until then, we're definitely not going to keep rewatching these 4 trailers trying to come up with more theories that will drive us nuts. But we want to hear what you have to say. How do you think Tears of the Kingdom is going to go? Are we going to experience the first great calamity? Or is it a sequel to the Breath of the Wild? You know what to do. Sound it all off in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell button so you will be notified of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.